In the present module, we are going to understand the concept and definition of health psychology, mind-body relationships and biopsychosocial model. The main objectives in this lesson are to understand the concept and definition of health psychology, body-mind relationship and biopsychosocial model of health. Coming to the concept of health psychology. What do you mean by health? The answer to this question is a very complex one, as it holds many different meanings across time, culture, society, social class and even age groups. Now we will discuss what is the actual meaning of health and how it has been conceptualized among lay people by World Health Organization and also among different cultures. Many studies have been conducted to understand what common people think and understand by health. In a study done by Bauman in 1961, she asked people to explain what does being healthy mean for them. Majority of the participants reported either of the following three types of responses. One is health means a general sense of well-being. Second was health is identified with the absence of symptoms of disease. And finally, the third response was health can be seen as the things that a person who is physically fit is able to do. Thus, according to a lay person, health has three components: feeling, symptom orientation and performance. Similarly, in another study, Benjamini and Leventhal in 2003 found that according to 500 elderly participants, health is an ability to perform physical functions and vitality. In another study conducted by Cross and Jay in 1994, they conducted a study to understand the frame of reference for judging one's health. They found that for older participants, the frame of reference was the absence or presence of health problems, whereas for the younger participants, health promoting behavior was the frame of reference. These studies suggest that the meaning of health is very subjective and also changes with social factors, and factors like age group also plays a very important role in understanding the meaning of health. The term health has been derived from the word health, that is an old English word that denotes the state or condition of being whole or sound. Pindar in 5th century BC defined health as harmonious functioning of the organs. This definition mainly focused on the physical aspect of health, including the functioning of physical organs as well as absence of pain and experience of comfort. Hippocrates described health in relation to lifestyle of the individual and also the environmental factors, including climatic conditions, air quality, lifestyle habits, quality of water and food as well. The term positive health was introduced by Hippocrates, which focused on diet as well as exercise. Health has also been described in terms of the person's ability to adjust to the environmental influences. Thus, if he or she is not able to adapt, then that means he or she may experience some illness or develop a disease. Most of the modern definitions define health as not mere absence of disease but an increased capacity for realization and fulfillment of self. It has been explained as a state in which the individual is able to adequately function at physical, mental, social as well as spiritual level, and is also able to express his or her potential in the context of the environment in which he or she exists. In 1946, the Constitution of World Health Organization, which we call it as WHO, came up with a definition of health as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or a disability. Later, in its 1998 constitution, WHO again modified the definition and defined health as a dynamic state of complete physical, mental, spiritual and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or disability. Here, few points should be noted down from these definitions of health by World Health Organization. First one is, health is not equivalent to absence of disease or symptoms. Second is, health is dynamic in nature. Third one, not just your physical well-being, but your mental, social and spiritual well-being are equally important. And the fourth one is, our health is combination of 4 dimensions: physical, mental, social and also spiritual. As we can see in the definition of health given by WHO, the term well-being has been used. Well-being is also known as subjective well-being. The concept of well-being is closer to the concept of mental health, life satisfaction and also happiness. Well-being is a subjective feeling which involves evaluation of those affective and cognitive aspects of life which are getting affected by disease and illness directly or indirectly. Often it involves evaluation of happiness, sense of contentment, sense of belongingness, achievement and being without any distress and discomfort. Other important terms related to health are illness, disease and sickness. Often used interchangeably, these 3 terms are used to describe the ill health of the person. However, in the scientific community, these terms are used to explain different connotations of ill health. Let us have a look at the basic definition of these terms. First is disease. The term is used by the doctors or physicians to describe the pathological, meaning symptoms, causes, etc. and biological aspects of the health condition of their patients. Next is illness. Illness refers to the general term that people use to describe their perceived deteriorated health conditions that may or may not have been yet diagnosed by a doctor. Thus, this term represents subjective experiences of a person's ill health. Then it is sickness. Sickness is the societal role and perception related to illness, such as taking rest, days off from work, stigma, etc. Being healthy can be denoted not only by absence of illness but also presence of physical, mental and social well-being, ability of an individual to adapt well to his or her environment. Health is also denoted by a movement towards well-being or wellness. Illness, on the other hand, can be categorized by decreased functioning in terms of physical, emotional, mental, social and spiritual aspects. Illness can also be determined by presence of symptoms as well as by the diminished ability to function effectively in day-to-day life. It can also be determined by how the individual is feeling. Health can also be described in terms of its 3 domains as proposed by Dalal and Mishra in 2012. They suggested the field of health broadly comprised of 3 domains, namely restoration, maintenance and growth. The objectives of first domain, restoration, is basically to help an individual in recovering his health from the state of illness. Thus, this domain involves all kinds of interventions that help a patient in recovering from his illness symptoms, such as bodily pains and sufferings. The second domain of health is maintenance, and its objective is to help people in maintaining good health and protecting them from diseases. All kinds of health promoting behavior such as yoga, exercise, eating good food, etc. are part of this domain. The last domain is growth. Here, health is not just in physical terms, but it considers social factors and spirituality as its parts as well. Therefore, this domain helps patients to achieve and grow in all spheres of their life. Next, we are going to talk about mind-body as a relationship. Mind and body were always considered to be interrelated. It is believed that sometimes our mind controls the body. This is even explained in prehistoric times. The ancient Greek physician Hippocrates spoke about balance between 4 circulating body fluids, which are also called as humors. These are yellow bile, phlegm, blood and black bile. It was thought that when a person was healthy, the 4 humors were in balance, and when they were ill, this was due to imbalance in these humors. The humors were attached to seasonal variations and to conditions of hot, cold, wet and dry, whereas phlegm was attached to winter, blood to spring, black bile to autumn and yellow bile to summer. Hippocrates considered the mind and body as one unit, and thus it was thought that level of specific bodily humors related to particular personalities. Excessive yellow bile was linked to a choleric and angry temperament. Black bile was attached to sadness. Excessive blood was associated with optimistic or sanguine personality, and excessive phlegm with a calm or phlegmatic temperament. Healing also involved attempts to rebalance the humors. For example, through breeding or starvation or special diets and even medicines. Even this far back in time, eating healthy was considered helpful to balance of these humors. The humoral theory of illness attributed disease states to bodily functions, but also acknowledged that bodily factors impacted on the mind. This view was continued with Galen, another influential Greek physician in ancient Rome. Galen considered there to be a physical or pathological basis for all ill health, physical or mental, and he also believed not only that 4 bodily humors supported the 4 dominant temperaments, which is the sanguine, the choleric, the phlegmatic and melancholic, but also that these temperaments could contribute to experience of specific illnesses. For example, he proposed that melancholic women were more likely to get breast cancer, offering not a psychological explanation but a physical one, because melancholia was itself thought to be supported by high levels of black bile. This view was therefore that mind and body were interrelated, but only in terms of physical and mental disturbances, both having an underlying physical cause. The mind itself was not thought to play a role in illness. Then after this, during the early Middle Ages, however, Galen's theory had lost dominance when health became increasingly tied to faith and spirituality. At this time, illness was seen as God's punishment for misdeeds, or similar to very early views, the result of evil spirits entering one's soul. Individuals were thought to have little control over their health, whereas priests, in their perceived ability to restore health by driving out demons, they did that. The church was at the forefront of the society at this time, and so science developed very slowly. The mind and body here in this age were generally viewed as working together or at least in parallel. However, the prohibition of scientific investigation such as dissection, limited medical progress and advancement in understanding and therefore in mental and mystical explanation of illness predominated in this stage. Such causal explanation elicited treatment along the lines of self-punishment, abstinence from sin, prayer or hard work. These religious views persisted until early 14th and 15th century, when a period of rebirth, a renaissance began. During the Renaissance, individual thinking became increasingly dominant and the religious perspective became only among many. The scientific revolution of the early 1600s led to huge growth in scholarly and scientific study and developments in physical medicine. As a result, the understanding of the human body and the explanations for illness became increasingly organic and physiological, with little room for psychological explanations. During the early 17th century, the French philosopher René Descartes, like the ancient Greeks, proposed that mind and body were separate entities. However, Descartes also proposed that interaction between the two domains was possible, although initially the understanding of how body-mind interactions could happen was limited. For example, how could a mental thought with no physical properties cause a bodily reaction? This is defined as dualism, where the mind is considered to be non-material, meaning it is not objective or visible such as thoughts and feelings, and the body is material, meaning it is made up of real mechanical stuff like physical matter such as our brain, heart and cells. Dualistic thinking considers the material and non-material to be independent. Physicians acted as guardians of body, viewed as a machine amenable to scientific investigation and explanation, whereas theologians acted as guardians of the mind, a place not amenable to scientific investigation. The suggested communication between mind and body was thought to be under control of pineal gland in midbrain. but the process of this interaction was unclear. Because Descartes believed that the soul left humans at the time of death, dissection and autopsy study now became acceptable to church, and so the 18th century and 19th century witnessed a huge growth in medical understanding. Anatomical research, autopsy work, cellular pathology concluded that disease was located in human cells, not in ill-balanced humors. Dualists developed the notion of the body as a machine, understandable only in terms of its constituent parts, which is molecular, biological, biochemical and genetic. With illness, they understood through the study of cellular and physiological processes. Treatment during these centuries became more technical, diagnostics and focused on physical evidence obtained, with the individuals perhaps more passively involved than previously, when at least they had been expected to pray or exercise their demons in order to return to health. This approach supports the biomedical model of illness. Biopsychosocial model. Between 1960s and 1980s, George Engel published a series of papers criticizing the medical model and advocating the need of new model of health and illness. He proposed that the existing biomedical model does not suffice to provide a basis for understanding the determinants of disease and also arriving at a rational treatments and patterns of health care. A medical model must also take into account the patient, the social context in which he lives, and the complementary system devised by society to deal with the disruptive effects of illness, that is, the physician role and the healthcare system also. This required a biopsychosocial model. Biopsychosocial model, as the name suggests, conceptualizes health as consisting of multiple dimensions. The medical or biomedical model focuses only on the physical aspect of health, but Engel's new model includes psychological and social aspects as well. It is based on the idea that humans are inherently biopsychosocial organisms in which the biological, psychological and social dimensions are equally important. Engel did not completely reject the benefits of the medical model, but emphasized on giving equal importance to psychological and social factors in the process of treatment. This model suggests that other than physiological abnormalities, germs and viruses, our behavior, thoughts and feelings may also influence our physical state. Further, Engel also argued that physicians should also give importance to subjective experience of their patients. Broadly, there are three areas in which this biopsychosocial model has offered new insights. First one is, patient subjective experience is as important as objective biomedical data. Second is, a comprehensive reason can give fuller and deeper understanding of our health and illness. And the third one is, patient should not be treated as a passive recipient of treatment. They should be given more power in their clinical process. This theory can be best understood while answering some questions, which are, first one is, what causes illness? According to this theory, biological causes such as virus, psychological causes such as beliefs, behavior, and also social causes like for example unemployment, all these may cause illness. Second question is, but who is responsible for this illness? This theory states that individuals should be held responsible for his or her own health and illness. Then the third question is, how should illness be treated? The whole person should be treated. For example, behavior change, change in beliefs and coping strategies, and also compliance with medical recommendations is very important in treating the individual. Next question is, who is responsible for the treatment? The focus is the whole person to be treated, not just the physical illness. The patient is therefore responsible for their treatment. Example, they are responsible for taking their medication or even changing their behavior also. Then, what is the relationship between health and illness? Health and illness exist on a continuum. Individuals progress along this continuum from health to illness and back again. Then the question comes, what is the relationship between mind and body? the focus is on interaction between the mind and body. The mind and body always interact. Then, what is the role of psychology in health and illness? Psychological factors not only are possible consequences of illness, but as contributing to it all stages along the continuum from healthy to being ill. The main advantage of this model is that it leads to numerous developments in technology and research. It also contributes to the diagnosis and effective treatment of varied illness. It also leads to increase in life expectancy and enhancement of their expectancy. Then through this model, we tend to rely on technology and thus could be cost ineffective and may not be affordable. The focus of this model is also more on treatment than an actual promotion of good health. Using the biopsychosocial model as a guide, researchers have discovered new and important findings and ways to promote people's health and recovery from illness. Now, here are some of the discoveries which happened from this theory. Using psychological methods to reduce anxiety of the patients who are awaiting surgery enables them to recover more quickly and leave the hospital sooner. Then, programs that teach safer sex practices have dramatically reduced risky sexual behavior and spread of HIV infection. Then people who have high degree of social support from family and friends are healthier and live longer than people who do not. Stress impairs the functioning of the immune system. This is what was found out from this theory. Applying psychological and educational programs for heart diseases, patients reduce their feelings of depression and which enable them to live longer. Also, it was found biofeedback and other psychological techniques can reduce the pain of people who suffer from chronic and severe headaches. Now, let us summarize what we have learnt in today's module. World Health Organization defined health as a dynamic state of complete physical, mental, spiritual and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or disability. Health can be described in terms of three domains as proposed by Dalal and Mishra. They suggested the field of health broadly comprised of three domains, namely restoration, maintenance and growth. Then, body and mind are always considered to be interrelated. It is believed that sometimes our mind controls the body. This is even explained in prehistoric times. The ancient Greek physician Hippocrates spoke about balance between four circulating bodily fluids called humors: yellow bile, phlegm, blood and black bile. Hippocrates considered the mind and body are one unit, and thus it was thought that the level of specific bodily humors are related to particular personalities. Further, Galen viewed that the mind and body were interrelated, but only in terms of physical and mental disturbances, both having an underlying physical cause. The mind itself was not thought to play a role in illness. During the early 17th century, the French philosopher René Descartes, like the ancient Greeks, proposed that mind and body were separate entities. However, Descartes also proposed that interaction between the two domains was possible, although initially the understanding of how mind-body interactions could happen was limited.